Welcome back once again to part 5 of our Taking Charge Fundamentals course. We're talking about the 3 ways to take charge of an emotional state, such as anxiety. So we're changing the direction of the results chain at the 4th box there. We've looked at using your physiology and in the last video, your self-talk. The 3rd way to take charge of your emotional state is to change your focus. We've talked about how the structure of anxiety is taking your mind out into the future and imagining bad things happening. And we've played around with that. When you think of something terrifying that's happened in your life, even if it's a horror movie, and you focus on that, you feel the symptoms come on. Those chemicals are released in your body. Let's have another example of that. Close your eyes and picture a lemon, perfectly yellow, perfectly ripe. Now take that lemon and place it on a chopping board in your kitchen and cut it in half, and then in half again, forming a wedge. Now take that wedge and place it in your mouth now and bite into it, feeling all the juice and pulp swirl around in your mouth. You may find that your body is producing saliva. It's not actually happening. There is no lemon, but your body is responding as if there is. Your body will respond to the pictures in your head. So we need to take charge of the picture or mind movie that we're running in our heads and focus on what we want and on the things that we can control in the process of getting that. There's a simple model we can copy here, and it comes from elite sport. Any sports person or sporting team starts with a picture of what they want to achieve. It might be of them standing on the dais with a premiership cup or trophy. That's what drives them on when times get tough. That picture of what they want is firmly implanted in their mind. But if you listen to any elite coach, they then let that go to the back of their mind and narrow their focus to what they can control in the present moment. They talk about taking it week by week, and we think they're just trotting out cliches, but they're not. They say it because they mean it and because it works. They're focused on the behaviours that get the results, who they're being. This is how Ken Hinckley puts it. Outcomes are products of behaviours. Get your behaviours right, outcomes take care of themselves. And the process by which they come to decide what those behaviours are is what's often, in elite sport, called a trademark. It's a short statement or just a few key points that sum up the vision of themselves and who they need to be to get the result that they're after. So how does this apply to anxiety? Well, in order to take charge of anxiety, you might need to step up as a certain type of person in certain situations. There's certain characteristics, qualities, behaviours and emotional states that you may need to display. World-Class Friend will run you through the process of creating the personal trademark that will work for you, and I think you'll be amazed at the difference it will make in your life. It's one of our favourite things to do. We then anchor that trademark into your physiology so that you're able to access those qualities and emotional states when you need them. We spoke about anchors in the physiology video. It's a really effective tool. The next piece of the puzzle is focusing on taking an action towards what you want and focusing on that, just the next step. One of Henry Ford's famous quotes is, "Nothing is particularly hard if you divide it into small jobs." So whatever you're doing, divide it into small jobs. A to-do list or action plan will help take it out of your head and then narrow your focus back onto what you can control. And that's the next step, the next action. So as for using our focus to take charge of our emotional state, there's a really simple formula. What do I want? Focus on the picture. Who do I need to be to get that? You'll have your trademark. And what's the next step, the next action I can take? And bring your focus back onto that. At World-Class Friend, we take you through a process to decide on what it is that you want. And then we use a technique to install a picture of that at the subconscious level, bright and vivid in your mind that you can then focus on when times get tough. We call it vivid visioning, and I'll give you a link to that process at the end of the video. That's a gift to you. We then work with you to come up with a personal trademark that you can focus on being so that you can narrow your focus to what you can control, knowing that the results will take care of themselves. And we set up an action plan with you so that you can see the path ahead, knowing with certainty that if you focus on the next action and then the action after that, all the time being who you need to be, that you will achieve your goal of taking charge of anxiety. And then a world of possibility awaits you when you do. Focusing on the action, which is actually the next box in the results chain, that's going to take you towards what you want, is going to be a lot easier if you know what that is and have it firmly implanted in your subconscious mind. And that's what we're going to do with the vivid visioning process I'm going to give you at the end of the video. Now, one thing I've noticed is that when you ask people with anxiety whether they regard themselves as warriors, almost universally they'll say, yeah, for sure. Now, there's a time and a place for worries. It's like anything, your weaknesses are your strengths in another context or situation. For example, Richard Branson wouldn't fill his boardroom with people who only see the positive in everything that he's doing. He needs people there that will focus on the things that can go wrong. There is a time for risk assessment and there's a time for risk mitigation. So us warriors do have a place in the world. But worrying is not what you want to be doing when you're actually trying to execute something. So if you're lining up for goal on the MCG with 100,000 people yelling at you, or you're in the middle of a job interview, it's no time to be running mind movies of things stuffing up. It's time for execution. When Roger Federer is serving for the Wimbledon crown and it's match point, he's not focused on the what ifs. What happens if he wins? What happens if he loses? He's not focused on what the crowd is thinking or saying, and he's certainly not focused on whether someone said hello to him earlier in the change room. He's focused on the picture of the successful completion of what it is he's about to do. So he's holding in his mind a picture of the ball landing exactly where he wants it to go. He holds that picture in his mind and then he lets his body do what it's been programmed to do. That's what elite sport is about, having that emotional state control so that you can perform at your best when the pressure is on. The opposite to that is what we call choking, and you see quite a lot of that in elite sport as well. And that's when those external things are allowed into the focus of the person in that situation. So they allow themselves to think about what will happen if they win or lose. That's the meaning they're putting on the situation. Then the body has a stress response to that. The stress cascade starts. Chemicals are released to put them into an anxious state. They tighten up and miss what they normally would have nailed without a problem. So we can use this tool, this focus on the picture, in everyday situations of our own. If you think about whatever it is that's making you anxious, whether it's a job interview, a speech, kicking for goal, it could be something as seemingly simple as a trip to the supermarket. What you want to be doing is running a mind movie of that going perfectly, and then take the picture at the exact moment that you know you have successfully completed that task. So for Roger Federer, for example, it's the picture of the ball landing exactly where he wants it to land. If it's a job interview, it may be the picture of the boss welcoming you to the company. You hold on to that picture and keep it front of mind at the exclusion of anything else. And that'll keep you in a nice, calm state. Philippe Petit is a tightrope walker, most famous for walking between the tops of the Twin Towers in New York. He's the feature of a film called Man on a Wire. He says it's treacherous on a high wire to change your focus point and suddenly look down. And you can test this by simply trying to balance on one foot. It's so much easier when you pick a single point of focus ahead and set your mind on that. It's when you change your focus and look down or around you that you'll have problems. To be worrying means you're not setting a picture in your mind of what you want at the exclusion of other pictures. So it's about holding the picture. If there's a goal to be kicked, a speech to be given, a job to be completed, there is a point where it's time to go into execution mode. It's about blocking out the noise. When the different mind movies start up in your head, shut them down and return to the picture and be a much smoother ride. You're in charge of your imagination. You make it go where you want it to go. So there's no, it wanted to go over here. This is the picture. This is where we're headed. No more questions. Now I know full well what it's like to be a warrior, always fighting imaginary battles, whereas there's no need to fight anything. You make sure your self-talk is healthy, so statements like I've got this, I can do this, and then you just focus on the picture in your head. These things are skills, how you talk to yourself and making the right pictures in your head. They're skills like playing sport or learning to use a computer. You work at them until you get to the point where you say, yeah, I'm pretty good at that. And when you reach that point with your self-talk and the pictures in your head, you're going to start getting some spectacular results in your life. Now, we all know that Steve Irwin was a freak in what he was able to do. And what we're talking about here is a big part of that, his focus. He said, I focus so hard on that crocodile that I'm unaware of anything else. I loved this quote from Luke Beveridge after his Western Bulldogs overcame all kinds of obstacles to win the 2016 AFL Premiership. It comes back to what are the possibilities. The probability at that time that we didn't make it here was pretty high, let's say 90%. So there's a 10% possibility that we get here. We're 100% focused on the possibility. We attacked the possibility. The Western Bulldogs blocked out the naysayers and all the reasons why they couldn't and kept their focus purely on the picture of what they wanted to achieve. That's what we're going to learn to do. Okay, so that's the trinity of emotional state control: your physiology, your self-talk, and your focus. Let's put it all together by playing around with it a bit. Between now and the next video, do something which you find a bit uncomfortable. This may be something seemingly simple as chatting to the cashier at the supermarket. When you feel the symptoms arise in your body, be aware that it's just a bunch of chemicals and note where you feel that in your body. Note what you're saying to yourself, the meaning you're putting on the situation, and note where your focus goes. That's a great first step. The next piece of the puzzle is to start practicing taking charge of those chemicals. Okay, so we've talked about ways to consciously take charge of our anxiety, intervening at the results chain in the interpretation stage with our meaning questions, at the emotional state stage with our trinity of physiology, self-talk and focus, and at the actions phase by taking an action towards what we want. But as we've said, ultimately we don't want to be triggered into unnecessary anxiety in the first place, and that's what makes the next video so critical. Don't miss that one. Now here's the link for the vivid visioning process I promised you. You'll find that at theplan.lpages.co, that's C-O, /vivid-visioning. Please check that off. I'm sure you'll find that process useful. Okay, we'll see you on the next video, part 6.